What is up, guys, and welcome to another edition of the Market Marauder Show. Being the market one trade at a time. Hope everyone's having a great week out there, able to lock in some profits. All right, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court's potential decision on the student loan forgiveness plan. This is something that affects majority of my listeners, as well as people who are out there who are in college still, and so. The HEROES Act was initiated originally that paused the student loan forgiveness portion of repaying your student loan debt. But now it's kind of gotten to the point where they're going to be reissuing it and redeciding on if they're going to continue with the student loan forgiveness or if they're going to start back with payments now that the pandemic was over. The pause came as the pandemic really was shaping up. It was kind of unforeseen on how the entire economy was going to recover, how jobs were going to come back. But now that everything is kind of recovered, kind of stabilized, we still have a lot of job losses. Interest rates are still pretty high, but this is kind of a big linchpin into trying to figure out how to re-gauge the economy. So Supreme Court decision on Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is key for those who will never, or those who never finish college. At the very least, the Supreme Court's pending decision on President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan will shed more light on the overwhelming burden of education debt. Increasingly, borrowers are struggling under the weight of the growing tab. As of the latest tally, borrowers owe a combined number of $1.7 trillion. For those who start college but never finish, managing such a hefty amount of debt is especially difficult. So this is talking about people who have started college, but for some unforeseen circumstance, they weren't able to finish and graduate and get a diploma. And so they still have that college debt, which was paused during the pandemic, but may potentially be reinitialized. Although college enrollment declines have leveled off over a number of years, students who started college but then withdrew rose 3.6% in 2020 to 2021, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. There are now more than 40 million students who are currently unenrolled. A growing number of stop outs is what they're calling people who haven't finished, and fewer returning students have contributed to a broader enrollment declines in years. Among students who put their education on hold, most said it was due to a loss of motivation or a life change, according to a report by education lender Sally Mae. Others cited financial concerns, followed by mental health challenges, which, the pandemic was a very difficult time for a lot of people, especially if you were fresh coming out of college. It was something new that businesses had to face, and, it changed the entire atmosphere of majority of how things are done. So you may have had in-person career fairs at your college that then went virtual, trying to overcome the learning curve of that from the business side as well as the university side. You then also have some companies who just stopped hiring, trying to figure out what was going on. So positions that you may have thought were available that some of your peers may have had or had the opportunity to do, you didn't get. Or even in the case of some people who had internships, you had the internship, the job was kind of secured, but some of those companies were like, oh, well, because of the pandemic, we're kind of cutting back and we're not really going to be hiring most people. So you kind of have to start from scratch from there. So it was definitely a weird transition for a lot of people. Also, universities switching to having remote learning instead of having in face-to-face person classes is something that changed as well. The variety of issues students face in college, many unexpected. In some cases, it could be unpaid bill. And so the number of outstanding U.S. Student loan debt has increased from 2006 to now from 500 billion to 1.75 trillion. If Biden's plan to cancel $400 billion of student loan is blocked, default rates may spike. This was warning from the U.S. Department of Education. But the borrowers most in jeopardy of defaulting on those who start college but never finish. So basically saying that the people who got the degree have a better chance because their degree allowed them to get a job that helped them to pay off the student loans. I think it's kind of weighing really heavily on the degree itself. I think that is the case for a lot of situations, but there are situations where the degree didn't really help, promote you to having enough money to pay off those student loan debts. So I think it's kind of, a 50-50 on that. If students default, it's not only a loss for them, but also for the institution of higher education and federal government. And forgiveness is really focused on the back end. So meanwhile, college is only getting more expensive. Tuition and fees, plus room and board, books and other expenses for four-year private college average about $57,570 in 2022 to 2023 academic year. At four-year in-state colleges, it was more than $27,940 according to College Board, which tracks the trend in college pricing and student aid. So the next year, for the next school year, some colleges said that they will hike tuition even more, citing inflation and other pressures. Still, many would-be students believe that getting a degree is worth it and continue to borrow to make college possible. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's where, a lot of people are trying to get their education for the first time, to have a better opportunity to go into the workforce and make more money. But then it's also like you have to spend more money to get a college degree in order to do that. And public universities are a lot cheaper than private universities, but still, everyone doesn't have a college fund for them. Not everyone is able to get, scholarships. I know in the state that I'm currently in Tennessee, I think we have Hope Scholarship, and then there's Pell Grant for a lot of people as well. But I think Pell Grant is just overall for all states here in the U.S. And so there are different ways, but that doesn't pay for everything. So it doesn't pay for food. It doesn't pay for, dorm expenses. I know for me, when I was in university, I think it was the first 2 semesters or the first 3 semesters, you had to be on campus and use the meal plan. Like, it wasn't optional to get a meal plan or not get a meal plan and be in the dorms. It was kind of something like you had to do, unless you had like some extenuating circumstance, like if you had a disability or something where you had to stay off campus, or you were just a commuter, but the parking was not the best. So a lot of people voted to just come in and pay the amount to stay on campus. But staying in the dorms was not cheap. It was, extremely expensive, and the meal plans were not cheap as well. So I know since I've graduated, it's gotten even more expensive over time. Universities continue to upgrade their facilities to get new students to come in. There's new technology. University itself is a business, so you have to look at it as like you want to get more prospective students in. You also have to think the environment of the university. It's kind of its own town or own city, and a lot of the day-to-day traffic that goes on is surrounded by the university. So a lot of the economy of some of these university towns comes from the students. So having more students there would bring more money to set town if you have them coming in, and then also other events, conferences, things of that nature. Not every university is just renowned for being the university itself. Maybe if you go to like Ivy League universities like Harvard or Yale or Stanford or something like that, then the university itself is just world renowned for being the university itself. But a lot of people can't either get into those or get scholarships or funding to get to those universities or acceptance into those universities. So kind of the other alternative is just for people who go local or go just a little bit out of where they live from to try to find a university that has programs that cater towards them. So definitely understand kind of the different end or different spectrum. And then also with the new job market, and increasing interest rates, the universities are increasing the amount that all of this is costing, which is then trickled down to the consumer, which is the student. And so the student ends up paying a lot more money to get the degree. And then you have the jobs themselves, which come to the career fair, but it's not everyone that goes to the career fair is not guaranteed a job. So just because you go to the career fair and you have the degree, it doesn't automatically assume that you will get a job being there, and that it will come directly after being in school. So, there's definitely a give and take in a lot of it. But ultimately, having this payback for a lot of people. During the pandemic, life has changed for a lot of different people who are graduating. But right before the pandemic, maybe they've gotten a house, they got a new car. Some of them have had kids. They haven't really thought about student loans. In our parents' generation, I guess speaking for mine, having student loans being forgiven or paused by the government is something that was just unfathomable. It's something that, you know, it's something that everyone agreed, hey, I'll have to eventually pay off my student loans at some point in time, but I know I will have this debt when I leave school. Not I will have this debt and then the government will pause it. And then I can go and use the money that I would have originally been using to pay off student loans to then go and do other things to increase my net worth. So there's definitely a lot of different strategies that are going on. I think ultimately it could help a lot of borrowers in that situation, those who went to school but then didn't finish school. As far as paying that back, I do agree it will hit them a lot harder than it will some who may have gotten a job in their degree or just gotten a higher paying job than the one that they had in college. And then also because life changes. So, since that time, when the pandemic first started, like I said, people's lives have changed. People's families have grown. People's gotten houses, cars, found different jobs, gotten better jobs, lost their jobs. So, I think it kind of should be by case basis. But, how do you kind of solve this issue that affects majority of Americans at a case by case basis? What are the criteria for that? I think there should be some more consideration on that before it's kind of like, hey, well, no, we don't want to do it. Hey, we do want to do it. I think it should be a case by case situation, and then have a group of caseworkers or whatever to do it. Similar to like getting the actual loan itself. They ask you different information. What's your degree going to be? What do you plan on doing with it? How much money do you need? I feel like it should be the same amount of effort it takes to get the loan that it does to help pay it off. So, I think there's a large disconnect with that as well. Debt is something that plagues a lot of Americans over the U.S. and this is a large chunk of it. If you look at debt, majority of it is just either house, auto loan, or student loan, or credit card debt. So those are kind of the top 4 debts that plague a lot of Americans. And so if this one is one of them that people could either get help as far as financial advice on how to pay it back, or have it just forgiven in general, I think that would be something that could help majority of Americans. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment down below. Let me know, do you think they should pay all of this off, being the government itself, or should there be some sort of coaching or counseling program that you go through to help overall, or should you be set up on a plan and have a personal kind of government official sort of person to kind of coach you through paying it off, giving more information on things you can do to get it paid off. Let me know down below in the comment section. Hopefully this video helped you all out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.